Good morning, students. Shall I start the class now? Yes, shall I start? I think all of you have joined, only BB Afsa, not it? Okay, I will start. Hmm. So only this topic was left out. The last topic of the chapter, reusing components versus reusing frameworks. My voice is audible, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then I'll continue. Okay, so the last topic of the chapter is reusing components versus reusing frameworks. So here you are going to study the heuristic related to reusing components versus reusing frameworks. So here you are going to study what are the components and frameworks and how that can be reused if you consider the different case studies. First, let me see the heuristic related to the reusing components and frameworks. This heuristic says that when building an inheritance hierarchy, try to construct reusable frameworks rather than reusable components. So in this chapter, you already studied what is an inheritance relationship and how we can construct the inheritance hierarchy for the given problem, right? And so when we are constructing the inheritance relationship or inheritance hierarchy, so you have to concentrate on reusing the frameworks rather than reusing the components. Okay, so that is the main thing you are going to study here. That is, whenever you are constructing the inheritance hierarchical relationship, so you have to concentrate on reusing the frameworks rather than reusing the components. Okay, so first, before studying the frameworks and components, so first we'll see what is the system analysis and domain analysis, then we'll go for the framework. Okay, so system analysis attempts to find key abstractions from the particular application. So the system analysis, it is trying to find the key abstractions for the given applications or from the particular application the designer is developing, and the result is the system specific classes. Means when we are capturing the key abstractions, and that results in the system specific classes, and these system specific classes are said to be said to be as the components. Okay, understood? See here, when we are building the hierarchy, we are capturing the key abstractions from the particular application that the designer is developing, and this results in a system specific classes. Means when we capture the key abstractions, that results in the system specific classes, and these system specific classes are said to be the components, and it is a designer hope that they will become reusable in other applications. Means when we are constructing the system specific classes, here the designer assumes that those classes can be used or reused in other applications. But the domain analysis says that it is the process of taking a step back and asking ourselves, can we create one design that satisfies the needs of a whole family of applications, of which our system is one member? Means, so here when the designer is using the domain analysis, then the designer must ask himself that, can we create the design that satisfies the needs of a whole family of applications where our system is one of the member of that family? So then if the answer is yes for this question, then the result is the reusable framework rather than the reusable components. Okay, so the reusable components means what? Capturing the key abstractions, and that results in the classes, and those classes are said to be components. But here in the domain analysis, we are creating the frameworks rather than the components. So by using system analysis, we are creating the components, and by using domain analysis, the designers are developing the frameworks, are creating the frameworks rather than the components. And basically what the framework is, a framework is defined as a class that contains a base classes by reference. So the framework consisting of the base classes by a reference. Okay, so hence we are concentrating on reusing the framework rather than the components. Let us consider one example of the operating system. Okay, so here we are considering the operating system design that wishes to place an object-oriented wrapper around the operating system in order to make the transition between the hardware platform easier. Because see here, where actually we can use the operating system once the system is constructed. In order to use that system, we need the help of the operating system, right? So hence. We are trying to, or the designer is trying to place the operating object oriented wrapper around this operating system. Why is trying to keep the wrapper around the operating system? In order to make the transition between the hardware platforms easier. Between the hardware platform means, if you consider an system, okay, so if you consider a computer system, what it consisting of? What it is consisting of? It consisting of different hardware components, right? So it consisting of different hardware components, like the monitor is there, keyboard is there, then the mouse is there, then the processor is there. All need to be connected together, right? Then only the resultant system is said to be a computer system, right? In order to work with the computer system, we need the help of the operating systems, right? So by using the operating system, we can have the communication between the different hardware components of a computer system. So in order to make the communication easier, what the developer is doing is trying to keep the object oriented wrapper around the operating system. Okay, understood? What is the purpose of using the object oriented wrapper? In order to make the communication easier among the different hardware components of a system, we are making use of the object oriented wrapper. Understood? Here, some designers performed system analysis and decided which operations an operating system needed in order to satisfy the given application. Okay, so suppose, so we are using the system in order to perform some operations or in order to satisfy some applications. Here, the developers are performing the system analysis and they decided which operations and operating system is needed in order to perform the or in order to satisfy the given application. Okay, and such type of operations are results in pure polymorphic functions. Okay, so these became the pure polymorphic functions on a base class called the operating system. Understood? So here we are making use of the object oriented wrapper around the operating system in order to have the smoother communication between the hardware components of a computer system. And to do that, the designers are performing the system analysis and they decided which operations and operating system is needed to satisfy the given application. And those operations became the pure polymorphic functions. And so these pure polymorphic functions are defined at the base class here. See here, the operating system is the base class and here different polymorphic functions are defined like open file, close file, context switch, span processes, read, write, and IO operations or IO control. So these are the different functions are defined and these functions are acting as a pure polymorphic functions. Okay, and these are defined on the are defined for the base class, that is the operating system. And the operating system will have different derived classes like DOS, Unix, and VMS. And these derived classes must define each of these methods in order to be useful in the applications. Since these are functions or methods are defined in the base class itself, right? And the derived classes DOS, Unix, and VMS can or they must define each of these methods in order to be useful in the application. So here this is about the operating system wrapper, and we are constructing it. Our object oriented wrapper is constructed around the operating system so that we can make the communication between the hardware components of a computer system easier. So by considering this hierarchy, that is operating system is the base class, it is having three different derived classes like DOS, Unix and VMS. Okay, so we are going for another type of hierarchy, and here we are porting the application to OS2 by creating a new derived class called as the OS2. Okay, so here we are creating the new derived class, that is OS bar 2, and we are implementing the necessary methods in this new operating system. But here we are just considering the operating system, right? Here we are just considering the operating system where DOS, Unix and VMS is the derived classes for this operating system. Here we are considering the new application by creating the new derived class, and OS2 becomes the base class, and we are creating the new derived classes for that. And we are while creating that, we are implementing the necessary methods in this new operating system. And here, why this is important? Because this is useful in domain analysis. And in domain analysis, we're asking the question, can we take the reusable components of DOS, VMS, and Unix, and now OS bar 2 and find a reusable framework that models them more fully? See here, for this operating system, we have considered the DOS, Unix, and VMS are the derived classes. Now, when the designer is performing the domain analysis, he might be asking, or he might be thinking that, can we take the reusable components of the derived classes DOS, VMS and Unix and now OS2 and find the reusable framework that models them more fully? Okay, so for this we are, or the designer is trying to find the framework so that that framework can be used in a full manner. Okay, and here we are generalizing these derived classes like DOS FX, Unix FX is there, VMS file system. So means for the operating system that consisting of file system, process systems, and device driver systems, right? That so for this we are creating the derived classes here. So we can generalize these derived classes by realizing that all operating systems consisting of a file system, process system, and device driver systems. So here we are generalizing that, and while generalizing, we assumes that all the operating systems consisting of the file system, process system, and the device driver systems. And there are different types of file systems, process systems, and device driver systems, each of which requires their own methods. See here, for the operating system, or the operating system consisting of file system, process system, and device driver system. But for each operating system, there are different types of file systems. See here, for the DOS, it is DOS file systems. For Unix, it is Unix file system. Like that, for VMS, it is VMS file system. Means depending on the type of operating system, we will have the different types of file systems. But generally, the main working of the file system is there, that we treat it as the base class. And for that, based on the type of operating system, we are going to create the derived classes for this file system. Similarly, for the process system and also for the device driver systems. See here, we have different types of process systems like DOS process system, Unix process system, and VMS process system. Similarly, for device driver systems, we have different types of device drivers for DOS, Unix, and the VMS. See here, so these different systems of the file systems or process systems and derived device driver systems, and these requires each of its own methods. See here, for the file system, we have only two methods, open file and close file. The same methods cannot be used in the process systems or in the device driver system, because operations to be performed on file systems are different. and operations to be performed on process system is different, and operation to be performed on device driver systems are different. Hence, based on the type of operate means based on whether it is a file system or process system or device driver system, we are going to define different methods. So for file systems, we have open file and close file. For process systems, we have the context switch and span process. And for the device driver system, we have the read, write, and IO control methods. So we have different types of methods for different types of file system, process system, and device driver system. See, this is an example for a framework of the operating system, and we can make use of these. Means we can, once the framework is created, we can reuse these framework in different applications. Okay. So this is about the framework. Here, what happens? The operating system calls allows for an operating system object to be created from the Unix file system or a DOS process and a VMS device driver. But this is an unworkable operating system object because there exist semantic constraints between the objects contained in the operating system calls. And these semantic constraints are captured in the class definition wherever it is possible. So hence, for this reason, many designers will bring back the derived classes of DOS, Unix, and VMS for the sole purpose of maintaining the semantic constraints of operating systems. Means, so if simply we will use this framework, what happens? So that leads to an unworkable operating system or operating system object. Hence, the developers or the designers will bring back the derived classes of the DOS, Unix, and VMS for the sole purpose of maintaining the semantic constraints of the operating systems. And these derived classes capture the semantic constraints in their constructors, which build and pass the appropriate pieces of framework to the constructors higher in the hierarchy. So this is about the reusability of, this is about the framework and how it can be reused. See here, this is the framework for an operating system. See here, and see the difference. See here, for the operating system, it consisting of file system, process system, and device driver systems. For each type, we have defined a set of methods or the messages. Clear? So, but here what happens, since it leads to the unworkable operating system object, in order to avoid that, the designers are brought back the three operating systems, that is DOS, Unix, and VMS. This becomes the derived classes, right? So hence they bring back these derived classes, and these derived classes capture the semantic constraints in their constructors itself. So these derived classes capture the semantic constraints which build and pass the appropriate pieces of framework to the constructors higher in the hierarchy. Here, so these can be passed to the constructors which are present higher in the hierarchy. See here, it may be passed to file system or process system or the device driver system. So hence, this is the very useful design when compared to the previous one, because here we can through the derived classes we can easily capture the constraints with the help of the constructors. So this is about the reusable of components versus reusable of frameworks. So this completes the chapter, and you have studied different types of heuristics under the chapter number 5. So you have total 19 heuristics are defined in this chapter, where heuristic 5.1 says that inheritance should be used only to model the specialization hierarchy, and 5.2 says that derived classes must have knowledge of their base class by definition, but base classes should not know anything about their derived classes. And 5.3 says that all data in a base class should be private, do not use the protected data. And 5.4 says that in theory, inheritance hierarchy should be D. If it is the deeper, then it is better one. 5.5 says that in practice, inheritance hierarchy should be no deeper than an average person can keep his or her short-term memory And so the popular value for this depth is defined as 6. Means inheritance hierarchy will be the 6, and all abstract classes must be the base classes, and all base classes should be abstract classes. This is about 5.6 and 5.7. And 5.8 says that factor the commonality of data, behavior, and our interfaces as possible in the inheritance hierarchy. And 5.9 says that if two or more classes share only common data, then that common data should be placed in a class that will be contained by each sharing class. And 5.10 says that if two or more classes have common data and behavior, then those classes should each inherit from a common base class that captures those data and methods. And 5.11 says that if two or more classes share only a common interface, then they should inherit from a common base class only if they will be used polymorphically. 5.12 says that explicit case analysis on the type of an object is usually an error. The designer should use polymorphism in most of these cases. Means instead of going for explicit case analysis, the object-oriented designer can choose the polymorphism because that is the better option. And explicit case analysis on the value of the attribute leads to an error. Then the class should be decomposed into an inheritance hierarchy where each value of the attribute is transformed into a derived class. 5.14 says that do not model the dynamic semantics of a class through the use of the inheritance relationship. An attempt to model dynamic semantics with a static semantic relationship will lead to a toggling of types at runtime. Then do not turn objects of a class into derived classes of the objects. Be very suspicious of any derived classes for which there is only one instance. If you think you need to create a new class at runtime, then now take a step back and realize that what you are trying to create are objects. Now generalize these objects into a class. And it should be illegal for a derived class to override a base class method with a NOP method. That is, a method does nothing. And 5.18 says that do not confuse optional containment with the need for inheritance. Modeling optional containment with inheritance will lead to a proliferation of classes. And 5.19 says that when building an inheritance hierarchy, try to construct reusable frameworks rather than reusable components. Means whenever we are using the inheritance hierarchy, they construct the frameworks rather than the components, because these frameworks can be reused in different applications. So construct the reusable components, reusable frameworks rather than reusable components. So this is about different heuristics that you have studied in this chapter. So total 19 heuristics were present in the chapter 5. So this is about the heuristics, and so this is the last topic that I explained, that is reusing component sources, reusing frameworks. So this completes the chapter and second module is completed. Any doubt in this chapter, you can ask, or you go through the entire chapter, you study that chapter. If you have any doubts, you can ask me afterwards. In today's topic, if you have doubt, you can ask me. Any doubt?
No, ma'am.
Okay, but how many? Only 6 are there. Yaar, ಇನ್ನಿಬ್ರು connect ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲಲ್ಲ. BB of size there. Impana, Niharika, Pranati, Shilpa. ಪೃಥ್ವಿ ಇದಾರಾ? ಪೃಥ್ವಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಯಾರಿಲ್ಲ? ಹೌದಾ? ಓಕೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಯಾರಿಲ್ಲ? ಶಿಲ್ಪಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಪ್ರಣತಿ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, BB of ಸಾರಾನು ಡಿಸ್ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಓಕೆ. Any doubt in today's topic?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So chapter is completed. Tomorrow I'm going to start the new chapter, that is chapter number 6. Okay. So as I said, first I'm going to complete first 4 topics, and after that Shilpa will give the seminar on the remaining 4 topics. Is it okay, Shilpa? So tomorrow I'll start the 6th chapter. Okay. So tomorrow I'll complete the 4 topics which are there in the 6th chapter, and the remaining 4 topics will be completed by the Shilpa. So Shilpa is going to give a seminar on Wednesday. Is it okay for you people? Shilpa, okay na? Will you give the seminar on Wednesday? ಶಿಲ್ಪನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಲ್ವಾ ನನ್ನ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ಸ್